Welcome, everybody. Just excited to hold some space. My name is Dr. Angel Acosta. I am the chair of the Acosta Institute. It is my privilege to kind of welcome you all, those of you who are here live, and then also of you who are watching the recording of this webinar. We founded the Acosta Institute in 2019, and we kept it secret, actually, for almost 2 to 3 years. We were doing consulting with companies under our parent company, Acosta Consulting. And with the Institute, we would facilitate these community gatherings, these restorative circles, around 2020 during the pandemic, while I was finishing my dissertation at Columbia University Teachers College. And as the community began to grow, as we were facilitating restorative practices and restorative circles, and finishing my 4-year study in healing-centered education, I finished excited. Well, I was in the process of finishing, excited about meeting the world and meeting the world with my scholarship and all this work I had done for 5 years at a rigorous institution. And I had 10 years of working in the field of education, especially in public schools. And right when I finish my dissertation, the pandemic hits. And all the dreams of getting a nice, cushy academic job at an institution were gone. The job market was bleak, and my wife was soon to be pregnant. And I was stuck with the reality of a socially distanced and dense global pandemic scenario. In the spirit of generosity for the community, I just started to hold space for the community in light of what was happening at the time, post George Floyd and during the pandemic. And with my research around healing-centered education, we developed an expertise of, on the one hand, understanding the power of mindfulness, restorative practices, somatic and embodiment practices, restorative justice, and their role in helping create environments where children and adults can thrive and can learn in a really vibrant way. So I looked at my dissertation and I built a business around my scholarship. I built a business around what I found in my dissertation. I built a business around my skill set as a facilitator of restorative processes and healing-centered approaches. And through that, I learned a lot. I learned about how ill-prepared I was to run a business. Even though my family, coming from Dominican Republic, we came to the United States in the 1980s with that entrepreneurial spirit. We very quickly were, to put it bluntly, kicked in the chest by the realities of navigating New York City in the 1980s and 90s, and the ways in which immigrant families have to respond to precarious situations. So even though my mom and my dad were entrepreneurial in a way, my mom was a chef, my dad was a cook as well, and they worked in restaurants. I worked in restaurants. I worked in bodegas. This idea of running a business was kind of foreign to me. And in my academic studies, we were well educated in how to engage in quantitative and qualitative analyses and deep objective observation, participant observation in terms of extracting data from really dense data sets, but had no clue how to balance a budget, let alone develop a strategy for a business. So I just want to start very vulnerable, letting you know that my business journey started off rocky and started off challenging. Nevertheless, I leaned into that journey wholeheartedly, and really, really committed to getting as much education as possible and pushing myself as much as possible. So as we started to build out the Acosta Institute and continue to consult, we started to develop courses for the community around healing-centered education. We started to create uh, online conferences and summits around healing-centered education. Throughout that process, we were able to support thousands of community members online with learning about healing-centered practices in the context of education, right? And invited scholars from around the country and the world to come and share their expertise. And throughout that process of really much kind of selling these offerings, these courses, these summits, we kind of were profitable in a way that allowed us to sustain the work. And I would also, during that time period, do consulting with companies like Google's Applied Digital Skills Lab, Facebook Reality Lab, Stanford's Design Lab, Salesforce Foundation, one of my favorite clients, SY Partners, and the Garrison Institute, and many others. We were able to work with at least 150 organizations over the last 5 years with some really powerful consulting, while at the same time doing this kind of public programming. Um, and I'll just say that in terms of our history, throughout that process, we're just grinding. I'm building a team. Special shout out to Maria Tan, Josana McDaniel, Joshua, Makita, Paola, who's on the call today. And the Kellogg Foundation reached out because they were impressed with our work, and they gave us a really sizable grant, 3-year grant, close to $1 million to support the community with programming. So this programming here, my time, the energy from the Institute, a lot of it is supported and gifted to you all by the Kellogg Foundation. So just a special shout out to that work. So as the work is growing, as organizations like Kellogg affirm our work, as clients continue to ask for support, at this point, like we're running a bit, we're kind of running a business. We're trying to building the plane as we're flying it. And what struck me was that we became really grounded, mature, respected in terms of healing-centered education, in terms of how to do that in the classroom, how to do it in higher education. And then over the last year and a half, with the advent and explosion of artificial intelligence, I from a strategic standpoint, I was like, is there a role for us in AI? I'm not sure. Does it connect to healing-centered education? I'm not sure. But I noticed that our community was so scared about how fast it was moving, not understanding, disoriented by the pace and the kind of fears around it taking over and displacing jobs, that I felt that healing-centered education in the context of adult learning would be a profound way to help and to usher in the community into learning about AI, learning about something that causes so much anxiety. How powerful would it be to learn about AI within a healing-centered context? So we started offering AI education, and that too gave us a little bit of proof of concept, a little bit of profit. And so we were able to spend a year fine-tuning our AI programming. And lastly, as 2024 was coming to a close, it 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 hit me. It hit me that, wow, we've been running a business and that focuses on healing-centered education, but the way that we run the business is also somewhat healing and supportive of people's whole selves. So I said, we have a healing-centered business. What is that? Is there such a thing? And my little scholar in me began to think about and look inside, look at our internal processes, look at the world in terms of what other areas we would see this kind of paradigm. So this webinar and our business mastermind series marks a huge milestone where we now feel really comfortable about supporting the community in the context of healing-centered business development. In closing, in terms of a little introduction, we've grown from healing-centered education to technology and now to business. So thank you for just taking that in. So our briefly in terms of why we exist, at the Institute, we leverage the power of healing-centered learning environments to empower individuals and organizations in the context of education, business, and technological innovation. I want you to just feel the clarity that's coming from the work. In terms of healing-centered business planning, it's somewhat of a new paradigm, but not really. And I'll discuss many of the lineages that are connected to this kind of approach, that many paradigms that already exist. But to honor this kind of approach, let's go deeper into what healing centered business planning is. For sure, it's definitely a new paradigm. It's definitely a new paradigm of business that connects to various new paradigms of business. For those of you interested in learning about an adjacent paradigm in business, you can look at the post-growth movement, which begins to ask questions around the limits of growth and this obsession with perpetual GDP growth, in relation to the finite resources that this planet has. So the post growth movement begins to question what happens when we can't grow our economies anymore, and what kind of world can we build that's sustainable. That's sustainable. So and there's several other adjacent movements that I'll discuss later. But let's go a little bit deeper in terms of this paradigm. Healing centered business planning is a visionary approach that prioritizes mindfulness, empathy, and purpose alongside profit, right? And productivity. It challenges a traditional growth at all costs mindset by fostering sustainability and balance. This is a very powerful moment, with so many different transitions around the world happening and so many different challenges. This is a really powerful moment, a maturing moment, really, for our society to reckon with the limits of a profit-driven economic model, yet also honoring wanting to have purpose and live in a healthy planet. Yet at the same time, knowing that we live in a political economy that puts all of us on our heels when it comes to paying bills, when it comes to investing, when it comes to sustaining financial stability, right? Can you feel that realness? Like, I want to change society, I want to contribute, but I also have to meet certain material needs, right? So this is like an attempt to really sit in that in between space. It also kind of explores this idea of the triple bottom line. My colleague Sander from the um, Garrison Institute has a book called uh, "The Triple Value Focus," and it's all about like this idea of a paradigm that balances people, profit, and purpose, ensuring that business practices are grounded in equity, well-being, and long-term impact for both individuals and communities. In addition, it's kind of a holistic approach. At its core, this kind of planning integrates the personal, the professional, supporting entrepreneurs and aligning with their inner worlds, with external strategies. This results in businesses that are not only successful but also deeply fulfilling and regenerative. And I want to name something here. This idea of integrating personal and professional. Historically, what the way we showed up at work was oftentimes different from the way we showed up at home, right? And you come to work and it's kind of a different me. And when you at home, even though sometimes work comes home, it's a different you there. But here's the thing is because of the pandemic and the ways at which hybrid work really transformed how we work, more and more of us were at home working. So it was kind of awkward to put on this professional persona while you're at home. And some of you were in your pajamas. Yes, I know you. That's kidding. But let me also say this, that because of all the different major transitions and major maybe sometimes catastrophic events that have happened in our society over the last 5 years, the pandemic included, companies had to wrestle with employees' emotional lives in a way that they couldn't before, right? So now you have this blurring of the personal and the professional, and you have this penetration of employee political and emotional lives in the workplace, creating really interesting conditions. So, some of the foundational principles of healing centered business, leveraging mindfulness and like reflection, right? Creating intentional space for reflection and alignment. So often many of us who are running businesses, whether large scale, like my dear colleague Kara Peckold from Frog, large scale initiatives like that, or my colleague Ronisha Blanchet, running her own smaller consulting firm. Oftentimes what happens is you're moving at such speed, such Mach speed, that you're engaging in an iterative reflexive process, possibly, but oftentimes the speed trumps the quality of the thinking that you can engage in. So healing centered business really prioritizes slowing down to kind of listen into like what's here for me, what's here for the team, what's here for the community, what's here for the world in relation to the kind of offerings that we want to produce, the kind of goals we have, the kind of goals we want to meet. It leans into curiosity. It leans into curiosity and compassion. In fact, one of the biggest healing centered business initiatives and ventures that I've ever been part of is happening right now between the Acosta Institute, the Hold On Institute, and the House of Beautiful Business. We're working on this big project called the Poly Opportunity. It's huge. Poly Opportunity, this global kind of project. And the idea is to look at some of the biggest problems that we're having, the poly crisis we're under, and thinking of them as opportunities, right? That's all about curiosity, right? That's all about compassion. But more importantly, this kind of approach to business is deeply relational. So often in business, you're in contractual conversations, you're providing different things to your clients, you're trying to position yourself in the marketplace, and it can feel really transactional, like, okay, you give me this, I give you this, and then hopefully, that exchange value allows both of us to feel complete or feel whole, oftentimes not necessarily being the case. And but this kind of paradigm really takes a long-term approach to building deep relationships with clients, collaborators. And I'm thinking about one of my clients, that's why partners that I love so deeply. And I feel like with that relationship, you know, I've been able not only just to not only consult for them, and even at times when there is no real scope of work between us, my commitment to them is so deep that just because we don't have a contract, I am here. I am here for you. I'm here for you. And I'm telling you, like, that's given me so much. From that client, like SYP always thinks about me. Anytime there's a big opportunity, with a different client or anything that like they think my work is relevant, oh, let's reach out to Angel, right? And that comes from like that orientation of like, I'm here for the long run. This is not just about one little contract here. And then lastly, it's purpose-driven innovation, right? So decisions are kind of driven by, does it align? Does it not align with our values? And kind of that deep alignment between the impact it can have on the community, the ways that it can be innovative and allow us to grow in a way that's sustainable and ethical. Um, just some last foundational principles, and this is fascinating. And honestly, I'm still learning, right? As a scholar, in my I feel very confident in my scholarship and bona fide research acumen in terms of healing centered education. Healing centered business, I'm growing and I'm learning. So bear with me. So these principles come from me just kind of observing, and these will grow. But this beautiful thing that healing through strategy, which is interesting, right? That the very way that we execute on the business core function, offering people different, whatever your business does, engaging in strategic planning, working with the team internally, um, that it that it itself is nourishing and supportive of your well-being. And part of that is addressing burnout, addressing scarcity mindsets, and limiting beliefs. And for those of us who are running smaller businesses, especially like myself, someone who grew up in difficult financial conditions in New York City, so often limiting beliefs can kick in. Oh, I can't get a contract like that. Or is this business worthy of scaling, right? And part of the work is healing is no, 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 no. No, no, no. That's not happening here. We're tapping into something deeper here in terms of not just a woo-woo abundant mindset, right? But I'm talking about a grounded sense of self-worth that looks at the conditions of our society, the conditions of our businesses, the fact that I am still here and have been able to amass such a vision and saying, ooh, there's juice here. Let's move, right? And then also trying to integrate healing and self-care into our systems. An example of this is our team, for example. When anybody in our team members has a sick child or anybody in the team members is just not feeling too well, we make it a habit of opening our meetings with how you feeling? How are you showing up? And if anybody says, I'm just energy's low, we perk up. We perk up and I'm ready to step up or someone else is ready to step up. And this happened actually recently. My colleague Maria, she wasn't feeling too well. And then I said, okay, all right. And then we kind of lifted a little bit of the spirit of the work and the work itself. And then I kind of got a little bit ill. And then she came back like, I'm ready. And so this is kind of like really beautiful dance of trying to engage in systems and approaches that really account for our well-being. Lastly, in a different webinar, we'll explore artificial intelligence. But I'll just say that artificial intelligence is the most profound technological innovation that our species has ever developed. Okay. With its complications, with its bias, with its limits, with its environmental impact, we're going to have to wrestle with this force across the next several decades. You can hear it now with the ways in which agential AI is becoming very popular right now. So what does it mean to gently orient towards this technological innovation and give it the attention that it deserves in terms of us integrating what feels right in regards to AI and seeing how it can help our systems, help our development. And we use AI extensively at the institute, but we mainly use AI to help us keep ourselves accountable, right? You see, AI is able to the different large language models are able to take so much data, aggregated data, and sort, analyze, and then reproduce in whatever way you'd like. So one of the things we do at the institute is we feed our custom GPTs within OpenAI's model. We feed them all of our yearly goals, like my yearly goals, Maria, our managing director's yearly goals, Paola, our executive assistant's yearly goals, everybody's yearly goals, and the institute's yearly goals. Right? We feed that in there. And with a custom GPT, his name is Miguel, actually. He's a healing centered peak performance coach. At any point in the year or the week, and any of us feels disoriented and not sure what to focus on, they can go and talk to Miguel. Miguel, I'm feeling a little bit disoriented. What are my quarterly goals again? Boom, Miguel can retrieve that information in an instant and support with reminding us what time it is, what you need to focus on. And that kind of snaps us back into focus, but also allows us to do deeper creative work with deeper impact in our community. Just a few more things, and then I'll open it up for questions. But why does this matter? And I want to acknowledge my sister Kara Peckhold might be on the webinar still. That healing centered business is also connected to the sustainability movement, the environmental movement. That healing centered business is also connected to the ESG movement, the the corporate social responsibility movement, the sustainable development goals movement, the inner development goals movement, the diversity, equity, and inclusion movement. These are all attempts to engage in somewhat healing-centered business practices. The difference is that healing-centered business goes right to it. Is a little bit more direct of really having something to say about the ways in which trauma shows up in the workplace. So just know that it's a relatively new paradigm in terms of people talking about it, but that it's also enriched by these lineages of various paradigms of business that are trying to help us to, you know, live on a planet in a sustainable and humane way. And some additional some ad- so what are some additional aspects around why it's important. One of the main reasons is, businesses are navigating so much complexity right now, locally and globally. They're operating in an increasingly complex environment that's shaped by global crises, rapid technological change, and shifting social norms. So healing centered practices offer a little bit of clarity and resilience in uncertain times, right? So if you, as you're navigating all this constant change, if you have a grounded practice in terms of yourself and your business, it allows you to kind of just navigate it a little bit better. It also kind of responds to burnout and this disconnection and the loneliness that we're kind of really experiencing. The old traditional models often neglect well-being. You're here to work. You're a machine. You're a cog, and you produce. But this accounts for people's well-being, and it thinks about really seriously people's mental health, connection, and sustainability with the planet, and just kind of redefining success. It encourages leaders to reimagine success, not just in financial terms, but in how businesses can contribute to societal healing, environmental care, and transformative impact. I want to close out with just inviting you to take 1 minute, whether you're here live or you're watching the recording, and just think about, if you might, some of you might have this already. Some of you might have this already. If you think about one word for 2025, think about a word that represents the kind of energy and focus you wish to bring to this new year. I'll give you 1 minute. And to help you, my word, I think last year was manifest. Manifest. So think about one word that really, that's the word that's going to like resonate throughout the whole year. And as you're taking this minute, you can think about last year. What happened? What did you learn last year about yourself and your business? And from an intuitive place, what do you feel 2025 is calling you into? I'll give you 10 more seconds. And if you have a few words, you can go ahead and write those few words and then kind of reflect later and choose one. I'll give you my word. My word is clarity this year. My word is clarity, is finding and developing a sense of clarity in terms of our, not just the organization, but my personal, refining my purpose, being really clear around the kind of clients we take on, being really clear around the kinds of public programming we provide the community, being really clear with my time, really sensing into, is this a yes? Is this a no? And responding from a place of clarity. That's my word this year. And you could assume that this is my word because maybe last year I was a bit, you know, not all over the place, but just doing a lot, as my young people say, doing the most. Honoring my dad who passed away last year. Last year was really rough for me in terms of grief. It still is rough, but I really want to move this year, just kind of taking all this energy, all this grief, all this purpose, and just moving with clarity. And I share that, and I'll end here in a moment, that nothing unleashes the power of a team or a person than clarity and alignment. For years, I would hear things like this. Oh, you have to have clear values, or you have to have a clear mission. And so often we kind of get lost between like the mission of our business and like the values, and then sometimes the execution, right? So like meeting clients, m- getting prospects, developing strategy, right? And I think sometimes we kind of we get we get this distance between the mission and the purpose and the values. And what I've noticed is that when you have clarity, just unleashes so much energy. It's a word I've been using a lot lately, at least internally with the team. The word is catalytic. Catalytic, meaning that it catalyzes, it catapults, it generates momentum, right? So for example, right now, this work around healing centered business and just where the institute is, I just have so much clear vision, and it allows me to move faster. It allows me to talk to partners in a clear way, say yes to things, say no to things. And then that clarity unleashes more vision, more clarity. So I want to kind of close out with um, another layer. So not just is my word clarity for the year, but we closed the year last year with a big conference exploring capacity building. And it came up to me and the team that capacity building is going to be a central theme across the next several years as we navigate these global transitions. So, one of the ways that we're moving is, what does it mean to support the community as though we're building capacity building through healing centered environments, right? So cultivating these healing centered environments that allow us to support people in education, support people leveraging and understanding AI, and support people who are building their businesses. So capacity building across those domains through building healing centered learning environments. Do you see the clarity there? It's like just, oh, now there will be challenges with execution. There will be revenue issues, right? The market will shift, but that clarity allows us to stay so centered. And then lastly, wanted to close out just with a bit of insight into our business mastermind. Um, and so one of our main offerings in terms of business is our business mastermind, which is kind of a half day, 4 hour experience where we bring a small group of entrepreneurs and folks who are interested to really sit down and think about the challenges in their business and think about innovative strategies and think about ways to like develop that alignment, that clarity with their values. So I want to close out just with a shameless plug of why you might want to consider joining any of our upcoming masterminds. Offering an intentional space, like a space for you to be held in a healing central learning environment, to think about what are the roadblocks to your business. Explore kind of practical tools and frameworks, including playing with AI to see what does healing centered growth look like for you. Be able to connect with others who are working on similar work and have similar problems. And things that you might gain are a clarity. Um, uh, you definitely leave building. We definitely want you to leave with essentially your plans for the year, especially per quarter. Confidence, right? Moving with confidence, because oftentimes leading a business can just shake your confidence. So, and for me, running a business is a perpetual. shaking of one's confidence, right? So what does it mean to find a kind of confidence that is so grounded, even when the ground shakes, like you have the skills to be able to hold it together? And then also thinking about kind of scaling your business. So I'll end there. I'll end there in terms of, the healing centered business paradigm, the ways in which we're supporting the community in terms of business development, and inviting you all to consider joining our masterminds.